Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a video showing you a little side project I've been working on for the past 2 weeks or so. As you can see on the title and on the right hand corner, I'm calling it RPG Enemy. This was pretty much inspired by the release of World of Warcraft Classic a little bit ago. I used to play it quite a bit back in the day, and knowing that they've released it, if you've ever played it, it's kind of a big deal for the community, for those of us that have been playing for a long time. So I decided that I wanted to mess around with it and see if I could create a little AI enemy that would resemble some of the abilities that you could find in just more classic RPGs, MMOs, etc. Thankfully, because obviously I've been working on AVK and the advanced taming system, I was able to repurpose a lot of that code and quickly come up with a very simple melee enemy. And I've been kind of adding more RPG elements to it. Obviously, if you guys have AVK, the attacks are very simple because again, they're supposed to be animals, right? This is a little bit more involved, and I wanted to show you guys what I have. Mostly to gather feedback and see what you guys think. Is this something that could maybe turn into its own thing, or maybe not? It depends really on people's interest and whether it would be useful, right? And also, if you do find it interesting, if you're making your own game, please do let me know in the comments below, or message me or email me any features that would be really cool to have if you were interested in this. Because again, this is literally 2 weeks in, so you're gonna see a very rough functionality here. But nonetheless, I'm already having a lot of fun playing with it. So I just wanted to show you guys what I have. So the first thing I'll do is I'm just gonna hit play and show you guys just the general behavior of this little guy. It's just a troll. So let me just go ahead and click play here. And you'll see that I have like a little area here. I am using the model from the action RPG from Epic, and it's a very simple character controller. I can sprint, I can roll, and when I roll, my collision capsule shrinks like a little ball. That means that I can actually avoid hits. I can you can see here that I actually created a little combo system. So if you attack, after a small delay, you attack again, it goes and does the first attack. But if you do it in a sequence, you can see that kind of a little chain here. I also have a special attack. Let me just run away from this guy for now. And that's the orange bar on the left. And if I right click my mouse button, I do like this little spinny attack. And that does obviously massive damage. And you can see that there's a cooldown right now. I think I have 20 seconds, and I cannot do it right now. I'm clicking the right mouse button. So obviously the focus is on the AI, but I wanted to make the player obviously be able to fight the AI. So the AI is very simple. I'm just going to approach it. It's just attacking me. It has a few attacks right now. Just you can see that it has, I believe I only added 3 attacks. It picks a random attack from its pool. Notice that the sounds are different even on the same attack. That's a third attack. I have a little bar, you can see here. And if I hit it, you can see that there's like a little hit. I have a level and a name at the top. And if I go kill it, it has a little death animation. And then after a little while, I think it's 10 seconds, it'll just despawn. Very similar to the animal behavior kit. You could either choose to ragdoll the body or play an animation. In this case, this guy is from Infinity Blade, doesn't really have proper physics asset, so you can't really ragdoll him properly. But that's pretty much it, right? It's very simple. It'll just kind of chase you around and hit you. But there are a few cool things that I wanted to show you guys that are a little bit more than just a simple AI that chases you around, right? That's just pretty simple. But I did want to show you what I've added for attack. So I have this guy selected right now, And if you look at the setup, we have a first the sum of the enemy stats. You can give it a name, you can give it a level, which you'll see what that does in a second, and you can do max speed and max acceleration. So this is again similar to a lot of the more classic RPGs where the higher the enemy's level, obviously different things happen, right? So I have a little array here of levels, and you can see I already have them expanded. So I say, for example, in this case, for level 1, this guy's going to have a total HP of 20, total mana of 20, which I haven't implemented, and an attack damage multiplier of, in this case, 1. Then for level 2, the HP goes up to 30, and then attack multiplier goes up by 20%. In other words, 1.2, and the same thing here to 1.5. So basically I can create different levels for my character, and I can specify the HP, the mana, and the damage amount by a multiplier for each individual level. And the reason I have a multiplier here is because if you go down here to the attacks, you can have melee attacks, ranged attacks, and I expand, you can see that the attack has a base damage amount. So in this case it's 5, right? So if it's level 1, the base damage amount is 5 times the multiplier, which is 1, it'll be 5, right? But if the multiplier in one of these levels is 2, then the damage for this attack obviously would be 10. So that was kind of my way of making it easy for us to modulate the damage per level while still keeping a base damage amount. So every single attack has its own base damage. So you can have stronger attacks, weaker attacks, and you can see here that we have some other additional really cool things. You can actually apply status effects. That's the last thing I've added, and I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So if I just open it here, I'm going to show this in a second. Very much inspired by World of Warcraft, right? You can apply an interrupt, a stun, fear, a snare, a root, a slow, and a pacify. And the enemy can do it to you if you implement it, or you can do it to the enemy. I'm using the same system for the player. You can actually do a straight up AoE, which is just going to do a sphere trace. So if you have an attack that is like a magic attack and it's pure AoE, you can specify the AoE options here and the damage radius, and it'll do that damage. You can even do knockbacks, and you can specify the direction and the height, and you can even apply like a camera shake, and that is just an effect, right? And then you obviously have the animation montage, animation stuff. You have an array of sound cues, which is what I was showing you. In this case I have 3. So every single time an attack happens, it'll pick a random sound cue, gives it variety. And then you have a few other sound information here. So that's basically what this guy is doing, right? So if I wanted to apply, let's say that I wanted him to add a knockback, I can say for the first attack, which is going to be this guy, I want him to add a knockback, and I say apply knockback here. And if I click play, you can see that he's now knocking me back. But it's only that attack. Notice that that third attack doesn't have that effect. Only this guy has that effect. So it's very easy for you to add attacks and effects on special attacks, right? And of course, you could write your logic, like if you want a boss fight, to have an attack happen more often than not, or maybe there's like a phase where a special attack happens and you have like a special knockback. You can add a camera effect. I'm just gonna use the default values here. If I click play, same thing. See if he attacks me with the first attack. Again, it's random. Of course, it's using the other one. Come on. There you go. And you saw the little screen shake effect, which is a nice little touch. I'm going to disable this for now. There are other effects that you can apply. And in this case, I haven't implemented the effects on the player, but I've done it on the enemies. So if I go to my character blueprint here, I'm just going to showcase it in the first attack here, which has a base damage of 4. Notice that we have all of the same options, so I could easily apply an effect. So in this case, let's start with stun, which is kind of cool. You can actually say, okay, I want to apply a stun for 4 seconds. I'm just going to compile here. And if I come here and I click play, that initial attack will apply a stun. And you can see that he has a little icon at the top, and he's stunned. And you can see that now he returns. Again. Obviously, the icons are straight out from World of Warcraft. Again, I'm just having a lot of fun here. But you can see that you can apply the effect. There you go. And you can make this anything you want, right? So I can make this super OP, obviously. Why not? I could say I want the stun to be 10 seconds, right? If you've ever played a rogue in World of Warcraft, you can now stun lock your enemies, or even the other players. And while the guy is stunned, you can do damage, and he's basically until he's dead. So probably not a good idea to have such a large stun. Let's go ahead. Fear I haven't implemented yet. That's the only one that's not implemented here, because that requires the character to kind of run around. So it needs a little bit more work. A snare. Let's say you can say I want to apply a snare for 10 seconds, and the snare strength is gonna be 0.1. The factor. So in other words, it's gonna reduce the movement speed to 10% of the enemy's normal movement speed. So if I come here, it has to be the first. You can see now that these guys are moving really slow, and you can see again I have a separate icon for a snare, and once it's done, then it'll just start going back its own speed. Let's move away the snare. Same thing with the root. In this case, it's just going to be a 5-second root. Why not? And you can see that he is basically stuck there for 5 seconds. And then he starts moving again. Slow is pretty cool. It's basically, if you ever played again World of Warcraft, it basically slows down the enemy entirely, not just the movement speed. So in this case, a 10-second duration slow, and you're gonna go at 25% of the normal speed. So this is basically a custom time dilation with a little bit more that I need to add. But again, these effects are fairly simple to add. You can see that this guy is slow, and look at the animation slow down. Everything is basically slow, not just his speed. The animation. The sound is not slow. Probably change. And then you have the last one here, which is pacify. Kind of interesting. And it basically makes the enemy not be aggressive for the amount of time. So I said 8 seconds is the default that I have here. And when I hit him with this attack, it's just pacified. So right now, attacking, I hit him, and you see the little icon again, and he's just going to move around, basically ignoring me as if he was just running around randomly. And then when the effect wears off, if I get close, then the guy should be aggressive. And you can see that it's a little buggy. It's not really... Come on, guy. Nope. So I have to kind of mess with this. To make sure that, pacify him again. But you get the idea, right? The point is that you have a lot of options here to add effects. And obviously a lot of these don't make sense for a melee character. Maybe Snare and Root for specific things. You can add a knockback, and you already saw one on my third attack chain. I already have a knockback, and that's why you see the knockback appear there. You can have camera shake yourself or knockback, or you can have an AoE option. Same options as the enemy, so you have separate sound cues per attack. In this case I have 2, with a bunch of other options. So I do like the fact that it's fairly easy to add these effects. I made it in such a way that it's fairly easy to do. For example, I've added this little effects zone. I'm just going to showcase it here. and it has the exact same options that you would have on your attack. So if I come to this guy and say, let me just go ahead and change the scale to like 4, and then I can apply a status effect. So if I wanted to grant the snare to anybody that overlapped this area, then I can do that. And this way, if you wanted to, you could create traps. So you can lure him this way, and as soon as he gets close, notice that he is now snared. So if you're trying to play like a hunter character, you can lay down a trap, and as soon as the NPC gets near, it's going to get that effect. You can also make it like a one-time use, so it kind of destroys itself, or there's a reactivation delay. So if it's not a one-time use, it'll apply the effect, and then it will not apply the effect for the next 2 seconds. Otherwise, it's going to be really unfair, right? So if I wanted to make a stun, like a stun trap, and it's a one-time use, I could just do that. And I can lure this guy to and it'll just fall there. You can see that he's stunned for that amount of time, and I can run away, and then he'll get back up and chase me again. So a lot of really interesting possibilities, actually. I have a lot of ideas, but I just don't know. Again, this is probably me being a MMO fanboy and thinking about the different effects. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm actually thinking of adding disarm, which makes sense. I can physically disarm this guy. You know, this is just attached in a socket. I can actually disable this and have the weapon like fly into the level. And maybe I can create a system where if he has the weapon, he does more damage. That wouldn't be too hard. Maybe the weapon itself has like a multiplier to the damage, right? That probably makes sense. So you could then disarm the NPC, and the NPC would be disarmed. Maybe even have him go pick up the weapons, similar to Breath of the Wild. If you guys have played that game, the enemies are very interactive with the environment. So that's kind of an idea I have. I just had it earlier today. I was like, hey, disarm would be another cool little thing to add. There's also the levels, right, that I haven't shown. So right now he's level 1. You can see that his HP is 2. But if I come back here and I say, you know what, I want him to be level 3, and I hit play, notice that his HP is and he's doing a lot more damage. And I can show you that very simply by coming here and saying, if he's level 3, the damage multiplier, instead of 1.5, I want it to be 10. Right here, I want him to be massive damage. And he literally just killed me in one hit, because the damage multiplier was 10, and I think the base damage was 5. That's 50. That's more than my HP. So, yeah, probably not a good idea to have such a ridiculous multiplier. But you get the point. Different levels affect the enemies in different ways. So what you can do is what I did here. I create a very simple blueprint, and I'm calling it an enemy zone. And all this does is it changes the enemy's level within the volume from between a minimum and a maximum, a range. So if you have a game like an RPG and if you want to divvy up your zones, so say that you have a higher level zone of trolls in this area, you can just change the levels here. And in this case, I have like zone 1 to 2 to 3, and it'll just pick a random level, and for every enemy that's inside that volume, it'll assign that level. And again, the level obviously determines the HP, the damage, the mana, etc. So if I click play here, let's see here, you can see that it shows level 2 randomly, and if I play again, now he's a level 1 troll, and you get the point, level 1 troll again. So another cool feature is now with the leveling system, very, very easy to set up your map with different zones for enemies, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. That's, again, very, very gamey for RPGs. But remember, you can choose not to show the level. I have to add that. So if you wanted to make it more like Skyrim, where you don't really display the bars, you could just hide the bars and just have the name. But still, you'll be able to use the leveling system for that purpose. So yeah, I've also added some different enemies. So I'm just going to drop a few guys here. Like there's a poison troll. I'm just gonna rotate this guy here, and they're basically the same. They're coming from the same base. You have like a mini boss here, and you even have like a boss. Let me just get this guy here and remove the trap. And you even have like a boss character here, which is even bigger. And they're all basically the same blueprint, but they have different damage, base damage on their attacks, and damage multipliers. So if I click play here, they all have the same base animations, but this guy, the boss, and the reason again is because the basic damage multiplier different. So you can easily create different variations of by changing the material. That's gonna kill me. By changing the material and changing the stats. So this guy, which is the boss, right? I said that it's a boss. Even for level 1, damage multiplier is 2. Level 2 is 2.5, and level 3 is 3. So even with the same base damage, you can quickly change the level information here to make these guys, hit harder, for example. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I have. Again, I'm just having a lot of fun with the status effects, and just wanted to show you guys and get some comments and feedback. Is this something that you guys would be interested in? By the way, right now it's melee, but I do plan, if I decide to kind of make this its own thing, I'll probably add obviously more types of attacks. And you can see I already have the options here. Attack mode, I have melee, I have ranged, I have magic, or a combination like melee and range and melee and damage and magic. I haven't implemented any of that yet, but my intention is obviously if this does become its own project, then you'll be able to choose what kind of enemy, right? Ranged, it'll be doing physical attacks, right, in a specific cooldown, and maybe magic, you'll be able to add your own spells, which maybe they are unavoidable, or maybe they spawn where the player is, like an AoE type spell. And the hybrids here, I'm thinking, is basically based on your distance. If you get close to a hybrid, it'll switch to its melee attacks. But if you're far, it'll use the ranged, versus melee, like this guy, who doesn't have ranged. He'll just chase you until he gets you, so you can kite him around and snare him and stuff. So that's kind of the idea. What do you guys think? Is this something you guys would be interested in? Is this something that would be useful for your game? Any ideas of additional things that you guys think would be cool to add? Do let me know. And the last thing I'll show you is just more for fun than anything else. I've added a little ability here that you'll see in just a second, just for fun. Clearly can't really stay in the game, but I wanted to see how quickly I could add a new ability. And I've added this ability in literally 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Just keep that in mind, right? Because of the way I'm setting things up, it's very easy to add new abilities with effects. So I'm going to go ahead and play from the default and check this out. Little Fusroda that I decided to add, and I'm doing it as an AoE It's a little OP because there's no cooldown, but all right, guys. What do you think? If you're making an RPG, let me know what you'll be looking for in enemies. Is this something that you guys would like me to work on as its own separate thing? Or maybe you don't care for it. Love to hear your comments. Alright guys, thanks so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.